All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for Instant Encore's webinar, 4 new features now available for your mobile app. As many of you know, my name is David Dombrowski. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Instant Encore. And in this webinar, we're going to introduce 4 new features for your mobile app that will help you with engaging audiences in a more interesting and deeper way. And during that process, we'll be discussing best practices for how to use these features. Then we'll take a look under the hood. We'll jump into the control panel and see how you can administer these features and how easy it is to work with them. And finally, we'll identify what are the next steps. So we'll talk about when you should be seeing this appear within your account and what you'll need to do to take advantage of these features when they do appear in your account. So I'm kind of teasing you here with this little image on the left, just a little bit. So this image on the left actually shows 3 of the new features, and we're going to go back to the beginning before we get to this point. So one of the first home screen options that was offered by the system is the What's New option, which a lot of our partners still use. And it's great because it allows people to see new content as it arrives. Within the control panel, you can feature an event, you can see what's new, but there's some limitations to it. It pulls what's new content from the buzz area, the music area, and the videos area, but it doesn't really allow you to add your own custom content into that mix. Additionally, you can feature a single event, but it doesn't really allow people to see multiple events on the immediate home screen. And then we released another group of home screen options, and one of those was the icons option, which a lot of people like because it provides easy navigation. I can go in, and the first screen I see gives me the opportunity to jump around very quickly within the app to access content. The challenge with this, though, is that it doesn't really show you any content on that initial screen. It just shows you the access points to that content without actually giving you content when you immediately arrive within the app. You know, another interesting thing about the What's New screen is at the bottom. You've seen this menu in your app for ever since the beginning. And so this tab menu at the bottom, it takes up a bit of real estate, you know, at the bottom. That's real estate that could be going to content. And so with 2 of the new features that we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about a new menu option and a new home screen option. So let's start with the new menu option. What if we took this menu that's down here and we actually brought it up into the header bar? So this is what we call a collapsible menu. It frees up visual real estate on your app so you can see more content at a glance. And when a user taps on this collapsible menu, it provides them a list of all of your tabs and gives them easy access to it, just like they would have on the icons screen. And of course, you still see the pretty icons with it too. But this is great for providing easy navigation. It's also great for freeing up that visual real estate for your content. And this is the result of just people using mobile over time. You know, people using mobile over time, things change in terms of the user experience, and this collapsible menu concept is something that's been introduced in the last couple of years. And so we're bringing it here into your app so that you have a new option. Now, the other thing that we're bringing in is a new home screen option. So this is what the What's New home screen looks like with a collapsible menu. What if we kind of gave you a refreshed idea of the What's New concept, which is what we're doing with what we're calling cards. So cards is a new home screen option for you that you'll see in your tabs area. With cards, you have the ability to show people new content as it arrives within your app. So you can show them new events, you can show them new videos, you can show them new music or buzz items. But it also gives you the ability to add your own custom content onto that initial screen. You'll also notice you have an area at the top where you can have a highlight image as well. So as I mentioned, you can have cards for events that will show the next 3 events or productions on your calendar and give people the ability to view all. You can also have cards for videos as well as music or buzz items, and these are all provided standard within the system. You can also create your own custom cards. So as you can see here, there's some elements to that. There's a photo area, the ability to provide a title and description, and then providing action text. You can use the cards area in a lot of different ways. You might try something fun. Maybe you want to highlight 6 tips for an epic date night so that people will think about your venue when they think about their next date night. And so you can put in an image, you can put in the title, description, and then a call to action. And then that will appear in the cards home screen as its own content area. And you'll see that the cards home screen is now this scrollable content screen that has some great visual elements to it that keep it visually engaging and allow you to switch cards in and out over time so you can manipulate your content at will. And of course, with the call to action, when someone taps on it, it's going to take them directly to that area of the app that you want to refer them to. Now, earlier I showed you this screen. This screen is also the card's home screen, and you see it has a collapsible menu. But that first card you're seeing is a card for what you may have thought of as at the event. Pardon my dog. You know when the mailman's here. So we used to call it at the event, but we're kind of rebranding and changing it. We're calling it now at the venue. And the reason we're calling it at the venue is there may be experiences that you want people to have at your venue that aren't necessarily event specific. For example, you may have a visual art exhibition in your lobby and you want to provide people with access to information about that art that they can view as they're in your lobby space and viewing it. And there may be other types of experiences you want them to have while they're at your venue that aren't necessarily event specific. And so at the venue just allows us to broaden that out a little bit. But we're doing more than simply rebranding at the event to at the venue. With at the venue, we're also adding in the ability for you to automate this content appearing within your app. You can do this by synchronizing your at the venue experiences or ATVs with your events so that when you create an event in the control panel, it will automatically generate an at the venue experience. You can also populate those experiences with default content. So you can create default content that would appear in all of your upcoming ATVs. So for example, if we look at the one on the left, if PNC Bank was your sponsor for the season for your app, you may decide that you want to include them as the default sponsor for all of your ATVs for this particular season. And by adding them as the default sponsor, they would always show up as the sponsor on the ATV info screen. Additionally, you might have default content for, let's say, things to know. Perhaps you have a thing to know that encourages people to stop by the box office to upgrade their seats on the night of the show. And you want that to be an item or a thing to know that will always appear in your ATVs. You can create that as default content, and that will always show up. Additionally, you can have default content for offers that you want to have throughout the season. You can also have a singular hashtag. Perhaps rather than having a hashtag for every event, you want to have a singular hashtag for your venue or for your organization. You can set that up in the default content area so that it will always appear in your ATV experiences. So this just goes to make it a little easier. And that's a direct response to, some feedback that we've gotten from folks where they've said that they love, the ability to engage people by releasing content in the app on the day of the show. It's just sometimes they forget to go in and create it for a particular event. And so this can allow you to automate that, and then you can add to it. So, just because I have, specific things to know that are in there by default, I can go in and add additional things to know. I can add additional offers that are specific to a singular event, or I can go in and add program notes or other actions for folks to take place. And then the fourth feature that we're adding to the system are geofence push notifications. So the idea with geofence push notifications is that you can establish a locational boundary or geofence around a particular venue, perhaps the venue where the performance is taking place, or maybe you're setting it up around a nearby partner venue like a restaurant. And the idea is that when your app user is approaching the venue and crosses the geofence, that triggers a push notification to be delivered to their device. And then they have the ability to open the push notification and it takes them directly into the app. So this is a great way to welcome people to your venue, a great way to remind them that there's exclusive content about the performance, or if you set it up around a partner venue like a restaurant, then you could have a message triggered that lets people know to stop by the restaurant for dinner prior to the show and get 10% off their meal, or whatever the offer may be that's associated with your partner. So these are the new features. Couple things to mention about geofence as well. You can schedule geofences so that they appear at specific times, or you can have a permanent geofence set up around a location. You can also have it triggered so that the geofence is only activated when an ATV experience is available. So I'm going to hop into the control panel and take a look at how to administer these. So when you come into the control panel, you'll see that there's some areas that are obviously highlighted with new over here. And since I just finished talking about geofences, I'm going to go ahead and start there. So with geofences, you can simply go into Create, and it will ask you to establish a name for your geofence. So for this one, I'm going to say ATV default message. So I want to create a message that will be delivered to my patrons when they arrive at the venue for an ATV experience. Now, you have the ability to look at it in satellite mode. Personally, I like map mode. And then you can begin to put in the address that you would like to use. And you'll see that this circle or geofence appears around the venue, and it's showing the smallest radius possible, which is 600 feet. And Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, is that 600 feet radius or diameter?
I believe it's the radius.
So this is showing the smallest circle for the geofence at 600 feet radius, and you can move it. So you can say, well, I want it to be, turning on a little bit before that. So I can simply slide out the circle, and it will resize to the dimension that I want it to be. Once I've set my geofence, then I can go down and decide when I want the message to be sent. I can set it up as a permanent geofence so that anytime when someone enters it, they'll receive that message. Or, which is what I want to do right now, I can set it up so that the user receives the message only when they enter the geofence and an ATV experience is active in the app. Another option, of course, is to set up a specific time. Once you decide when you want it to be sent, then you can go in and put in your text for your geofence message. There's also a checkbox. Make sure it's checked so that it's active. And of course, you can go in and uncheck it if you ever want to disable a message. And then you simply tap Create. And it's that simple. So now if we go back, we'll see that in our list of geofences, we'll have an ATV default message. And you can have multiple messages set up. So you may have a permanent default message, and then maybe you have an ATV message that supersedes it when there is an ATV experience available within the app. Or a custom message that supersedes it at a specific date and time. Additionally, you can get analytics data. So when there are messages that have been sent out, it will provide you information about the number of messages that were triggered within a given period of time, and it will show it for the various messages that you have. Does geofence function on GPS or Wi-Fi? It functions on both, but to be honest, it does function better on Wi-Fi. So to answer your question, both. It functions on both, but personally, I have found it to function better on Wi-Fi. Eric, would you agree with that?
Yeah, basically it's going to take advantage of all the location services available to your phone. So working off cell service, GPS, Wi-Fi, but as David mentioned, when it detects a Wi-Fi network, it doesn't actually need to connect to that network. It just needs to be able to see that it's there, and that's really a big help. So if your venue has a Wi-Fi network, even if it's just for staff, that's really a great thing to have.
Yeah, that's a good point. So they don't actually have to be logged in to your Wi-Fi. It just shows that Wi-Fi is available, and that kind of pings the GPS system when it does that. And that helps with the delivery of the message. Feel free to submit more questions as we go through. Now I want to go back and take a look at the venue. So as I mentioned about at the venue, you'll see there's a checklist over here when you go in. So of course you can create an experience, but you can also go in and start to initialize your automation, and you can begin that by synchronizing it with your events. So you can go in and you can enable sync with just the click of a button, and then that will automatically create experiences for your upcoming events. Now, Eric, if they go in and they enable sync, will it automatically create experiences for current events that are in the system?
Yes, it will.
So the minute that you get this turned on with your control panel, you can go ahead and enable sync, and it will automatically create experiences for all the events you already have in your system and for any events you have moving forward. And it really is that simple to turn on. Additionally, when it comes to default content, you see you have the ability to create a generic hashtag for your organization or venue. If you want to put in a sponsor for the default, as well as their URL that can link to, and then you can set your time zone that you want to be associated with the default content. Then you can go in and you can pick things to know, and you can decide where you want these default things to know to appear. They can appear at the top of the list or the bottom of the list. And if you decide that you need to change the order, you can do that within a specific experience. You can go over here, and that will allow you to add in a thing to know that will be used as default content going forward. And it also works the same way for offers, as well as custom actions. For example, with custom actions, maybe you want to prompt people to donate, and you have a donate tab that you have set up as a custom action. So you could go in, you could add that custom action here as default content, and then for any experience you have going forward, it would prompt people to donate when they're on site attending your venue, when they're attending the event at your venue. So as you can see, it's really easy now to automate the delivery of same-day content within the app and to provide people with this deeper engaging experience every time that they show up for a performance at your venue. Now, the other two that we looked at were the cards, home screen, as well as the new menu option. I'm going to start with the menu option. It's really simple. In the style area, you can see under theme, there's now an area called menu style. And you have two options. You can go with collapsible, which is the menu option I was showing you earlier today, or you can go with the tab bar menu, which is the one that you've been using. And it's very simple. You just go into the drop down and select the one you would like to use, and you can jump back and forth. If you decide you want to try the collapsible for a period of time and then try the tab bar, you can go back and forth. For the cards home screen, you're going to find this in the tabs area. You'll see that it is labeled under type as home and cards. So your other home screen options are icons, slideshow, what's new. When you have cards enabled, you're able to go in and simply tap on home. As usual, you can decide if you wanted to display within the app. You can change the label name. You can change the icon. When you get into managing the content for the cards home screen, you can start by deciding if you would like to show a header image. It's not required, but it does provide a great visual appeal right at the beginning of your app experience. And you'll see here that we provide you with some suggested dimensions for that particular image. And then you can get into the cards area themselves. I mentioned that there are some cards that are provided standard with the system, and you can see those listed here under type. So at the venue, events, videos, buzz, and music are all cards that are provided standard with the system. You can decide if you would like a card to be disabled. So for example, you could go into a card and say, now I have music available, for my app, so I'm going to go in and enable this now. or you can disable it with a check of a box, and it really is that simple. I also mentioned that you can create your own custom card, so we're going to do that really quickly. You go into add a card, and I want to add a donate card. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to choose my image. And then I put in my title. And then I put in a description. And then I give them a call to action. Now here I have to decide, where do I want them to go? What's the action I want them to take? Well, I have a donate tab in my app, so I'm going to go here and click here to find the link to that particular app tab. So I go here, and from the drop down I select app tab, and over here it's going to provide me a drop down list of all the tabs that I could choose from. I'm going to go find Give to the Raric, and it's going to provide me a series of different links here. And because I am working within the app itself, I'm going to grab the in-app link, and I'm going to copy that. And then I'm going to pop over here and paste it in. Now notice you can also link to an external website if you want. So it doesn't necessarily have to be content that's just within the app. You can link to content on your website or content on a third-party site if you like. Over here, when you create a new card, it will automatically be enabled. So again, you can always come here and disable it by unchecking the checkbox if you like. You can also schedule it to appear. So if you have a particular card, say you're doing a Kickstarter campaign, and it's only going to be active for a 2-week period, you could create a Kickstarter card, and you could put in the activation dates, when you want it to appear on the home screen, when you want it to disappear from the home screen. If you leave these areas blank, then the card that you create will always appear on the home screen. And then you go into add. And now I'll see that it has added at the bottom a Give to the Raric card. And I can change where it appears within the home screen by simply changing the order here. So I can move it up just by dragging and dropping it where I want it. And now, if I go back up to the preview, I can see that it's appearing as the second card. So that's how you add a card. So let's see, questions.
Yes. Hi. I'd first just like to thank everybody for coming today. It's great to see you all here. We have one question. Is the description area customizable via HTML? I believe at this time that it is just plain text, but that's some great feedback. I'll mark that down. If that's different, I'll definitely get back to you about that. But just to start, we're just going with plain text on the cards. Next question, how many geofences can you have? Right now we're limiting it to basically 3 geofences by default. Sort of the goal is to focus on your main venue. If you are a presenter or an organization that performs at several venues around town, you can request to have that level increased. The hard cap that we can have is 20, and that's just a technological limitation because of iOS and Android. Next question, are cards on the collapsible menu or just on the home screen? So the cards are on the card's home screen, and the collapsible menu is sort of a separate feature. When you have the collapsible menu enabled, you'll see the card's home screen as the first entry in the collapsible menu. Does that answer that question?
And as you can see here, you can have the tab menu appear on the card's home screen if you like. And again, it's just a simple matter of going into the style area and determining if you would want the tab bar menu or the collapsible menu.
I do have a couple notes to add while we wait for any other questions to come in. Because you're our existing customers, when you go into your list of tabs, you might see that the card's home screen isn't at the top. You're actually going to find it at the bottom of the list. And just like you can reorder the actual cards by dragging and drop, now on the main list of tabs, you can easily reorder them by that same method. So if you want to start using this new cards home screen, you're going to find it at the bottom of the list. All you have to do is drag it to the very top and then turn it on. We have a question here. I noticed that artists that I had updated in recent months reverted back to old versions with this update, and every time I add the same artist, like our music director, it has to be updated each time. Will that be fixed? So when you say adding artists, actually I'll get with you via email to answer that question, since I don't think that's exactly one of these topics here.
So one of the main questions you probably have is, when will these new features be available in my account? The answer to that is we are putting in the updates with the Apple and Android stores this week, and once they become available and get through the process with Apple and Android, then we'll be sending you an email notification to let you know that the new features are available in your account. Once you get that notification, your next steps are to change your menu option in the style area from tab menu to collapsible, if you like, to switch your home screen to the cards option, which will allow you then to create, edit, and arrange your cards as you like. You can synchronize at the venue with your events so that you will have ATV experiences automatically appear within the app. And you can add default content that you would like to appear in each of your upcoming ATV experiences. And finally, you can create geo-push notifications for your venue. And you can decide if you would like permanent messages, if you would like a default message to appear when ATV experiences are available in the app, and if you would like to have some custom push notifications at specific dates and times. Eric, have we had any other questions come in?
There is one question about the possibility of adding Facebook and Twitter feeds directly back into the app. We are looking at some options to try and do that in the future. The limitation came from Facebook and Twitter disabling their RSS feeds, but we are looking at other technologies that might let us bring that feature back.
If you do have any other questions, please feel free to email us at support@instantencore.com, and we'll be sure to get back to you when these new features are approved by Apple and Android to appear within your app.
One last quick question just came in. Do you know when you would hear back about social media features? If that's referring to importing those Facebook and Twitter feeds, we don't really have a specific timeline on that. It's just something we're looking into as a possible future feature.
I will say it is a conversation that we were having just last week, so this is something that has been at the top of our mind. All right, well, if there are no other questions at this time, thank you again for joining us today. We're really excited to be adding these new features into the mobile suite, and we look forward to seeing how you use them to engage your audiences. And again, if you do have questions, please don't hesitate to email us at support@InstantEncore. Thank you again for your time today, and we appreciate you using Instant Encore as your mobile solution for the performing arts.